Hi guys, welcome back. Lesson 40. Today, for those of you following along at home, 3rd edition, Algebra 1, Saxon, we're on lesson 40 on page 160. We're going to be talking about the quotient rule for exponents because we've talked about the multiplication and the power rule. So now we're going to talk about the quotient rule, and then we're going to talk about how that applies when we are using distributive property. So previously I had you take some notes on the rules of exponents, and the biggest one that you may have encountered so far, actually they're all going to be important, but let's just do a quick refresh on these. This, when it looks like this, you multiply. When it looks like this, you add. Okay, so make sure you're writing all of this down, especially if you're in my class. Put this in your notes, please. You're going to want to reference this guy. So this is to the 5th. Then we have one, let me think what other ones we've done. X to the, let me make sure I've got these. Oh, x to the 0 power. I think we've talked about this by now. That equals 1. Now what we're talking about is x, I'm going to pick some random numbers here, x7 to x5. What that says is we have 7 x's upstairs and 5 downstairs. How that works out is this guy acts as a giant subtraction bar. X minus 5, so we get x squared. 7 minus 5 is what I meant to say. So we get x squared, so that's a rule. Another one is 1 over x to the negative 2 equals x squared. Another way to write that is x to the negative 2, I'm flipping these around, right? This is currently upstairs, because if we can turn anything into a fraction by putting it over 1, equals 1 over x squared, like that, 1 over x squared, okay? So when you take it upstairs, downstairs, that's where it gets that attitude adjustment, right? If it's got an attitude and it's downstairs, move it upstairs and it fixes that negative attitude, right? All right, guys, so let's take a look at how that works with some of these examples. If you are in my class, you must be writing these notes down in your book. Example number 1, we have x6 over x4. There's a couple ways of doing this. You can write x equals 6 minus 4, right? And then you'd say, okay, 6 minus 4 is 2, x equals 2. Personally, when I have a whole bunch of variables on the top and the bottom, what I do is I say, okay, all 4 of those are going away, and that means there's going to be 2 left. So what I have upstairs is x squared. Downstairs, I have a 1, but we don't put anything over 1, so if it's the only thing left downstairs, you don't have to write it. Let's take a look at, okay, so now example number 2 says, now write it with everything in the denominator. So this is x, example number 2, sorry, I don't know what I'm doing here. So example number 2 says, write the same one, but make sure the x's are in the denominator. So this is gonna be a little tricky. It's the same idea with this guy, but what I'm doing is I'm moving this downstairs. Currently has a positive attitude. If I move it downstairs, it's going to have a negative attitude. So upstairs I have 1 remaining because this whole thing is going downstairs. I have x to the 4th times x to the negative 6, right? If I do that, I get 1 over x, and remember our rules, these guys get added together. I end up with x negative 2. That's everything in the denominator. So let's look at example number 3. Now when I'm doing a lot of complex ones like this one, x6, x negative 4, the first thing I do is move all of my negative attitudes my negative exponents up or downstairs, and then I worry about combining things. So the way that I would do this, and again, there's multiple ways of doing this, so if you do something different, that's fine too. This whole chunk is gonna go upstairs, so now it's x6, x4, leaving just a 1 downstairs, right? But we don't normally write a 1. But looking at this, our rules of exponents are, say that we add those guys, so it's gonna be x to the 10. Now, the other way of doing this is, oh, I'm a little excited there, x to the 6th over x to the negative 4. Again, this acts as a giant subtraction bar. So what you can do is x to the 6th let's see if I can write this appropriately, minus, and that's negative 4, minus negative 4, right? Well, we add the opposite, so we end up with x to the 10, okay? Either way will work. I tend to default to this method, so when I'm working through these problems, you'll see me doing it that way, but either method works. That was example number 3. Example number 4. Simplify, so this is example 4. Simplify x to the negative a over x to the b. And when they say simplify, they mean get rid of those negative exponents, right? So this guy, I have to go downstairs. So upstairs, 1 remains, never 0, it's always 1. And we have XA, because now it's a positive A, because it went downstairs. And that XB didn't go anywhere, so it just stays here, XB. Well, we could simplify this even a step further, and I don't really care if you do it either way. But when we do this, these are going to be added, so you could say XA plus B. That would work as well. As you go through and correct these answers, you may find that they are in the back of the book. You may find what they look like in the back of the book may be different. So I want you to make sure that you're understanding all of those. Okay, so for number 5, example 5, now we're going to start adding a bunch of different ones together. X to the negative 5, y6z over, z, negative 3, y, and then x. Oh wait, y2, sorry, and then x. All right, guys, so for these ones, I like to put my exponent, my one exponent in here like this, just to make life a little bit easier. If you need to do that, that's totally fine. I'm gonna flip all of my positive and negatives around. So upstairs, this guy is gonna go upstairs, right? That's gonna go upstairs. This guy is gonna go downstairs. So I end up with, I'm gonna just move y6z1 and y2x1. Now I'm gonna move my things. So this guy goes upstairs, z3. This guy goes downstairs, x5. Okay, so looking at that, we can combine these two things. So now I have y6, z4, because we add those two together. Then downstairs I have y2 and x6. Okay, so these guys I can't do anything with, but with those y's, I can get rid of all of those y's on the bottom, both of those two, which leaves me with 4 upstairs, which means now I have y to the 4th, z to the 4th over x to the 6th. That would be simplifying it. So again, there's multiple ways of doing this, but I think that that's the easiest one. So x to the, or example number 6 is what I'm looking for. Now we're gonna use the distributive property. Let's get complicated, folks. 4x negative 2 over y4. Then it says just y4 x2, but remember that's over 1, right? So in the example, it's not over 1, but I think that's helpful to have that. Minus 3x to the 4th, y negative 2. I hope you guys love your paper and pens and pencils, or pens, no pens, pencils, because you're gonna be writing a lot. It's gonna be exciting. Okay, I wanna get rid of all of my negatives first. That's the very first thing I'm gonna do. So this is a negative here, and this is a negative, so I'm gonna flip those around. So rewrite it, 4, x2, y4. I like mine to be in alphabetical order too. So up here, I'm gonna switch that, x2, y4 over 1 minus 3x4, y2 over now 1, right? Because there's nothing downstairs because I moved it back upstairs. Nothing is 0. There's just the 1 downstairs. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this whole chunk and we're gonna distribute it to this whole chunk right here, and then also distribute it to this. So for that first one, we multiply the tops. Remember when we multiply fractions, straight across top, straight across bottom? So I end up with 4x2y4 over, downstairs I have all this garbage times this. So I end up with x2y4, okay? Minus 4 times 3 is 12. And then I have all those x4, y2 over, and then downstairs I have x2, y4. All right, so looking at each one of these chunks, remember chunks are broken up by addition, subtraction. There's chunk here, I can simplify these out. These both go away because there's 2 of them. These guys both go away. Over here, 2 x's go away, and you're left with 2. And then 2 y's go away, and you're left with 2. So if I were to rewrite that, it would be 4 minus 12x squared over y squared. And that is your answer. Just leave it like that and you'll be good to go. All right, let's do some more examples. Example number 7. X negative 2y, y4, x2 minus, Oh, and this is telling you, be sure to read your directions. So if you're following along at home, this is on page 163. It says, use the distributive property to expand all this stuff. And then, let me finish writing it first. Write the answer with all variables in the numerator. So make sure you're reading the instructions on this, because generally I default to no negative exponents. But if it tells you to do it, it tells you to do it. Well, what we could do is just move everything up to the numerator to begin with, and we don't have to deal with fractions. So we have is x negative 2y times, if now this y is already up there, but I got to bring this x, so this is going to be x negative 2y to the fourth, because that is downstairs. Now that it's upstairs, I got to change that sign, minus x4 y negative 2, because I'm taking this and I'm moving it upstairs, okay? Now I don't have fractions. Beautiful. I'm going to take this chunk here and multiply it by this chunk, and then again by this chunk. So if I do that, I get x to the negative 4, because remember, we're adding these guys. This is a 1 right here, so y to the 5th minus x squared y to the 4th is going to be x2, okay? And then I have y1 and y negative 2. So y negative 1, because I add those two together and end up with that. Now they're all in the numerators. Bam, we're good to go. That's how you do that guy. All right, so example number 8. K2b over p negative 2. A, B, negative 1, K2, 4P2 minus, or over B. Okay, this one says use the distributive property to expand, write the answer with all of the variables in the denominator. Well, straight off the bat, let's move all those things to the denominator. So I'm gonna have 1 over, and this is gonna go downstairs, this is gonna go downstairs, and this is to the 1 power, right? I like to put mine in alphabetical order, so since this is going downstairs, it's gonna be b to the negative 1, k to the negative 2, p to the negative 2, times 1 upstairs, everything else gets moved downstairs, so it's gonna be a to the negative 1, because this is currently to the 1, b to the 1, because it's negative here, so when it goes downstairs, it's gonna be positive. And then that K2 stays there, so it's just going to stay. Minus 1 over 4 downstairs. Oh, wait, 4 to the negative 1 downstairs, okay? Because it's currently to the 1 power. Makes sense? And then B is already downstairs, so B to the 1. And then P to the 2 gets downstairs, so that's P to the negative 2. Okay, so we're gonna distribute this garbage times this garbage times this garbage, get it out of there. So first one, 1 times 1 is 1. Now downstairs I have a to the negative 1, b to the negative 1 times b to the 1 is b to the 0, which is 1, so we don't even have to worry about that. K to the negative 2 and k to the 2 is 0, which is 1. So we don't have to worry about that either. So a to the negative 1, and I'll write those out just so that you have it actually. B to the 0, K to the 0, P to the negative 2, minus 1 upstairs, 4 to the negative 1, and then B to the 0, because B to the negative 1 and B to the 1 gives us B to the 0, K to the negative 2, and then P to the negative 2, P to the negative 2 is P to the negative 4. I already fed them. Kyle. Okay, so my sweet and loving husband is trying to feed the dogs again, because they're looking at him and they're like, no, we totally haven't been fed. Okay, anything to the 0 power is 1, so we're gonna get rid of those, get rid of that guy. So we end up with 1 over a to the negative 1, p to the negative 2, minus 1 over 4 to the negative 1, k to the negative 2, p to the negative 4, and that is everything in the denominator. All right, guys, so the practice problems are on page 163, about halfway down the page. If you need them, I will show you them right here. Pause the video, come on back, make sure you're doing them on your homework, especially if you are one of my students, and so that way I can take a look at them. There are the practice problems. Give that a shot and come on back. All right, guys, so for A, x negative 6, y 4, z 5. over x negative 6, y 5, z 2. Okay, guys, so that's terrible. You can't really see that. 5. Okay, so again, I like to flip everything around so I have positives. So this is going to go upstairs, this is going to go downstairs, which means you're just going to have x6, y4, z5 over x6, y5, z2. Okay, so what we know is these guys cancel out. Oh, it says simplify, write all the answers with the variables in the numerator. So this helps if we read directions, right? So what we're going to get rid of 4 of these y's here, which means we're going to have 1 y left here. Let me see if I can focus that. Good. So then we get rid of these 2 z's here, and now we have 3 here. So what we've simplified to is upstairs we have z to the 3rd. Downstairs I have y to the 1, except we have to write them all with the answers in the numerator. So this guy is going to go upstairs, so it ends up being z3 y negative 1. Perfect. Let's try the next one. All right, guys, so for B, we have M4P3 Z10 D. I'm going to throw a 1 up there so I don't lose track of it. Over M negative 2 P4 Z negative 6 D negative 2. All right, guys, so on this case, I'm going to move anything, or yeah, I'm going to move anything with a positive, negative. Let's deal with those, right? Anything with a negative, I'm going to move to the other side. That's what I meant to say. I don't know. Words are hard. M4, M2, because I moved that guy upstairs. P3, Z10, Z6, because I'm moving that upstairs. D1, D2. All over. So this got moved up, this got moved up, this got moved up. P4. All right, guys. So I'm going to simplify this now. I get M to the 6th. Now, there are 3 P's upstairs, and that leaves 1 P downstairs, right? So I will come back to that. Z10 and Z6 gives me Z16. D1, D2 gives me D3 with P1 downstairs. Now, in order to simplify this with all of them in the numerator, and I also like to have it in alphabetical order. So D3, M6, P negative 1, because I'm bringing it from upstairs, or from downstairs to bringing it up to upstairs. Z16. Z16. Okay, good. Let's look at C. C is Z negative 3 over M times X4 M2 minus 3Z M. All right, write all the answers with the variables in the numerator. So we're going to, let's move everything upstairs to begin with. This is a 1. This is a 1, 1. So M negative 1, Z negative 3 times M negative 2 is X4 minus 3M negative 1 Z1 distribute. So I end up with M negative 1 and negative 2 is negative 3. And then X4, because I like to be in alphabetical order, then Z negative 3 minus 3. And then M negative 1 is M negative 2. Z negative 3, Z1 is Z negative 2. There's your answer with everything in the numerator. All right, guys, one more, and then you're done. D, M negative 5 over W4X. Can you take the dogs? Yeah. CW2 over X3M. And so on the book, it says the M is at the back. Let's move that to the front. Let's make life easier. M negative 2, 3CM. All right, again, everything needs to be in the numerator, so let's move it all upstairs. We have 3 to the negative 1, C to the negative 1, because I'm moving it upstairs. M to the negative 2, M to the negative 1. Well, guys, that just gives us M to the negative 3. Times m negative 5, w negative 4, x negative 1 minus c to the 1, I'm going to put a 1 there just to make it easier, m to the negative 1, w2, x to the negative 3. I'm like being super careful that I don't make mistakes on this. So, okay, so if I've got, I'm looking at it, I think we're good. Okay, so we're going to just distribute all this garbage to that garbage. So we get 3 to the negative 1, c to the negative 1, m to the, and we add these guys up, 5, 6, 7, 8, so m to the negative 8, w to the negative 4, x to the negative 1, minus, this gets distributed to here, so we have 3, c to the negative 1, c to the 1 gives us c to the 0, m to the negative 3, m to the negative 1 gives us m to the negative 4, and then w2, x negative 3. Okay, so this would be your answer. Just keep in mind that c to the 0 is 1, so you can cancel that out because anything times 1 is itself. All right, guys, if you have any questions at all about these, let me know. They get pretty tricky, but I appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you guys in class. Thank you so much.